go and I would just weep. I would just weep and hold a sign. And then one day, one of the guys that normally preaches, he wasn't there. So somebody was like, go preach to that guy right there. When I preached to the abortionist when he showed up. And I guess that's what I've been doing. That's the first time I opened my mouth at one of these places, and I've been doing it ever since. There's some places where there are normally just women out there. They may or may not say anything, but there's hardly any men going out to do this ministry. I believe that there need to be men out there going to do this ministry, whether you take an hour from lunch or go to work late, an hour in the morning or something like that, but to go out there to preach the gospel to these places. Usually you have to go early because they open the doors early, or people come early to murder their children. We need to change our mindset about the people that are going there, that they're not the victims. There might be some circumstances where they are victims, they're being forced to do it, but they're willfully, with the intent to take the life of their child. And we need to keep that in mind when we go out to preach at these places. And like I said before, we're not going as protesters. We're going to stand for righteousness, and we're going to stand for Christ. So we're going to take our swords with us. We're going to open up God's word, and we're going to preach from it. We're going to preach with boldness and with authority. We're going to preach with passion and compassion. And we're going to plead with people. But also we need to think that we don't have that much time. So our pleading may turn into using the law, and then we'll preach Christ, and we're going to call people to repent and believe the gospel. But we're going to start with pleading. We're going to go, it's almost like a ramping up. And like I said, imagine this place, you probably have a few seconds from the time they get out of the door, out of their car, into the building. There's other places that you can go around the country where you can walk with the people from the sidewalk almost to the door, or right even to the door. In Portland, Maine, you can walk right to the door. In Portland, Oregon, you can walk right to one of the doors. So it just depends on where you go. So I know that I'm probably preaching to most of the choir here, but hopefully by the time that we're done, there's maybe something that you'll be able to get out of what's shared.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Having never preached at an abortion clinic before, and you only have a few seconds, as you said at times, what is the primary content of what you try to get across in those 32 seconds to a minute? I mean, obviously it's the gospel, and I know I understand that, but I mean, you said there's a launching that you're doing. Could you maybe give us an example? You don't have to preach to us, but I mean, just...
Well, I think initially what we want to do is we want to try to get the person to come over. So I'm going to ask them a question. Is there something that we can do to help you today to not take the life of your child? There are other options to what you're about to do. And so we want to try to engage them in that way first. And then I think from there, if they continue to go towards the door, that's when you'll start with the law and who God is. I mean, basically what we learned today, you can do all that in a short amount of time.
Yes.
Talking about the holiness of God, you're going to stand before your Creator. You're going to stand before Him and give an account of your life and what you're about to do today. You know that it's not right, that it is murder. And your only hope today, or you can even say, we're your best friends here today. We came to tell you the truth about if you continue to do this, what the consequences of that are. Not only through man's eyes, but through God's eyes, your Creator. And your only hope is in Christ Jesus, the Lord, who calls you to repent and turn from your sin today. Put your faith and trust in Him, something like that.
Wonderful, thank you. I appreciate it.
Pastor Jeff, I'll turn it over to you. You can kind of give us a rundown of what to expect tomorrow.
Thank you. Actually, I wasn't planning coming today to have all of these things in my mind, and it's good to do this extemporaneously. I appreciate the opportunity. One of the things that you talked about is what we've wrestled. My wife and I have struggled with what do we say and what do we do in these kind of situations. And we went back and forth. We talked with other people that had been down there for years. We were trying to get a real feel for how do we do this. And one of the things that actually makes it even more difficult is we would love something where we could walk along with people. The way they had set this up was whoever bought this site knew what he was doing. And so the building is like this. It's a rectangle. The street is over here. So there's parking lot. There's a lot of parking lot before you get to the front. The street runs along this way, and there's a lot of parking lot on the side here, and then there's forest on these two sides. All right, so you've only got this L shape here where you can get at anybody. They have two armed guards, security men who make sure you don't get on the property. Two abortionists have been killed in Pensacola.
Wow.
So pro-life people are mud in Pensacola. You know, I mean, when anybody thinks of pro-life people, they think about the doctors that were blown away as they were getting out of the car. You know, so and one of the abortion clinics was burned down. So they view us as dangerous. We are, you know, it's just ipso facto, we're dangerous. So that makes it difficult. So they make us, we stand probably about 30 to 40 feet. The entrance is here, it's not on the front. They have to come to this particular door. So the Roman Catholics generally stand across the front, and we stand along the side here. It's kind of an interesting divide. You need to understand that there are two completely different mindsets there, right? Not only as far as the gospel goes, but the Roman Catholics, and many of them are very sweet people, they're down there to save lives. But the primary thing is to save that baby no matter what. And many of them have been trained to do that. So they don't want anything that intimidates the people. They don't want anything that is loud, like a preacher. They're uncomfortable with don't tell people to repent, and don't stand there with a Bible. Those are the kind of things, because they just want to be sweet. They want to get the people's attention. They want to minister to the women and try to help them change their minds. And very often some guy's standing there going, to them is just the absolute nadir of what they're trying to accomplish. So you've got two entirely different perspectives down there. We've been down there 4 years now, and it took us the first 2 years to finally get close to our rhythm. It was just really strange. When I would call out to people, because we have to stand so far away, you can't just talk like this.
Right.
It would be great, because that's where I'm comfortable. I used to go down to the campus at LSU, and I would go down to where the subculture hung out. That's where I used to play as a musician. And I would go down there, and I would just go from person to person. I would talk to them, and I wasn't an on the corner guy, But here is where I actually had to start doing public street preaching, open air preaching. So, with that in mind, we've got folks that don't like for you to go too long. They don't like for you to get too loud. And thankfully, in the Lord's mercy to us, there was a Roman Catholic doctor who started coming, and he left everybody in the dust as far as obnoxiousness. And so we ended up not looking as bad as we did for a while. In fact, the police came out for him several times.
Wow.
So he had a
You speak of him in the past tense. Is he no longer an issue?
He doesn't show up very much anymore. He was told by some FBI men, if we hear anything else from you, we're taking you in. Yeah, he was doing a lot. I don't want to take too much of your time with that. If you want to talk to me tomorrow, I'll tell you. But he was doing all kinds of things that especially the women that work there were beginning to say that this is harassment. This is harassment. So all the people there, again, that work there associate us with him. And we've had to really work at, on one hand, not saying, not having a t-shirt that says, "I'm not was stupid," but It's been a real challenge. So here, I will tell you what we've come to, and it's certainly not set in stone for what everybody else has to do. I'll just tell you where we finally hit what I would call our stride. And that's our purpose, for those of us from our congregation that go, have in mind the idea of we want to save babies, we want to save souls, see the Lord save souls. And we try to break it up in what I would call a healthy combination of those two things. From the cars will park along the front, they will park directly in front of the building, which leaves space here, and we're standing down here under an embankment. The embankment goes up and is somewhere between 3 and 4 feet high. So we're down here looking up at the door. And they park along the very back. And so it's just impossible to get close to anyone unless you're right in the front, right here, where people come up to park. You have a few minutes when they get out of their car, but that's normally where the Roman Catholic folks are stationed. So with that in mind, when a woman gets out of her car and starts going to the building, usually the first thing we will say is, "Can we help you? What can we do to help you? We're here to offer you options. Please don't kill your baby." We plead with them. I really appreciated Sai's message. We generally have, none of our folks have ever been verbally abusive. However, they think you're verbally abusive because you're talking to them. They're going in there to kill their baby, and they don't want you to. I have literally had this happen where I've started, someone's walking, and I go, "Excuse me, miss, could we please talk with you before you go in? Could we pray with you just before you go in? We have other options." And she turned around and said, "Stop judging me." So that's what you'll face. It's as our brother said. It's a dismal ministry. You will watch grandmothers bring their granddaughters to kill their babies. You will see husbands and wives. And surprisingly, in light of what you were saying, we have not seen a woman do a full-blown turnaround like we did just last Friday. And in God's mercy, she did, but it was because she was being pressured. The father, to whom she was not married, was pressuring her, and it's like, "Don't come home if you don't get this baby killed. Get rid of the baby." And thankfully, she was from out of state. Her mother lived in the city, and I tell you the details later. I'll be going too long if I tell you the whole wonderful story. But we were able to get a man there setting her up with job placement, and who was going to get her money back from the abortuary. And she decided not to kill her baby. So we were thrilled beyond words, but it was exactly one of those situations where when I first came down there, the first year, it was just hard-hearted women that were going to kill their babies. And that's just the way I thought. And then we had to start dealing with the realities that women are down there for different reasons. But they are coming in for the specific purpose of killing those babies. But they're very different things. We've had husbands come out extremely angry with us. We wanted to have our baby. The baby's got a defect. The doctor said we can get rid of it. We're getting rid of it. Stop making this hard on my wife. So you have everything from a semi-legitimate medical issue going on to pressure. Sometimes pimps bring their young women there, and they are being forced into an abortion. And that's one of the reasons we decided to take the position of, we'll call out, can we help you? That's where we start. You don't have to do that. That's where we start, because we're down there for an hour and a half. Let's see. So now this is the position I adopted. Aaron Ruiz was here last year. I don't know, some of you probably met Aaron. And Aaron and I, my wife and Aaron and I were very often the only three down there. We really got a good rhythm going, and I don't know how else to say that, because what you don't want to do, and this is what everybody does when they first go, everybody starts talking. Please don't do that, let us help you repent, and you got 15 voices, and it becomes a wall of sound, and none of it really penetrates. It's just people yelling at me. That's it. That's all they hear. So we got to where we could feel each other out. He would preach. I would ask. And as a matter of fact, sometimes we would be staggered. If a woman was getting out of her car, my wife would say, "Can we help you? Can we please?" By the time she got to me, I'd say, I'd take over, and I'd say, "We can help you financially. We can help you put the baby up for adoption." Now that's the "we want to help you" portion. With the preaching, because they tell the women, ignore us. There's going to be protesters out here. Ignore them, just come straight in. So they come flying sometimes in their cars. They get out really fast, they head for the door, they go in as quickly as they possibly can. The only thing that slows them down is they will not let them bring in purses or cell phones. And very often the women will forget. They don't want them taking pictures and stuff. They very often the women get out because it's always there. And they get up and they'll tell them to go back. Well, it's kind of like they have to go back through the gauntlet. And you can always tell them they hate that. Boy, they really do. You will get ignored. You will get called names. You will have lots of hand gestures. You probably know a lot about that as a former policeman. But I mean, this is the kind of thing that you get. You get anger. You get the cold shoulder. All of that. So we have attempted to in the short run, as they're making it up to the door, try to talk to them about their baby, because we only have 15 to 30 seconds. Once they're in, and it's just the security guards outside, we'll preach, and I have a little plastic megaphone from a football game, and I use that because the guys that had the bullhorn